Diversity in the living world. Biology is the science of life forms and living process. The living world comprises an amazing diversity of living organisms. Early man could easily perceive the difference between inanimate matter and living organism. Early man defined some of the inanimate matters, wind, sea, fire, etc., and some among the animals and plants. A common features of all such forms of inanimate and animate object was the sense of awe or fear that they evoked. The description of living organisms included human beings began much later in human history. Societies which included in anthropocentric view of biology could register limited progress in biological knowledge. Systematic and monumental description of life forms brought in out of necessity. Detailed system of identification, nomenclature, classification. The biggest spin of a such storage was the recognition of this sharing of similarities among living organisms, both geologically and both horizontally and vertically. That all present day living organisms are related to each other and also to all organisms that ever lived on this earth was a revelation which humbled man and led to cultural movement of conservation of diversity. In the following chapter of this unit, you will be get a description including classification of animals and plants from a taxonomist perspective. Ernst Mayr, born on 5 July 1904 in Captain, Germany, Ernst Mayr, the Harvard University evolutionary biologist who has been called the Darwin of the 20th century, was one of the 100 greatest scientists of all time. Mayr joined Harvard Faculty of Arts and Science in 1953 and retired in 1975, assuming the title Alexander Agassiz Professor of Zoology Emeritus. Throughout his nearly 80 years career, his research spanned ornithology, taxonomy, zoogeography, evolution, systematics, and the history and philosophy of the biology. He almost single-handedly made the origin of species diversity this central question of evolutionary biology that it is today. He also pioneered the currently accepted definition of the biological species. Mayr was awarded the three prizes widely regarded as the Triple Crown of Biology: the Balzan Prize in 1983, the International Prize for Biology in 1994, the Crafoord Prize in 1999. Mayr died at the age of 100 in the year of 2004. So, chapter 1: The Living World. How wonderful is the living world! The wide range of living types is amazing. The extraordinary habitats in which we find living organisms, be it cold mountains, deciduous forest, oceans, freshwater lake, desert, or hot spring, leaves us speechless. The beauty of the galloping horse, or the migrating birds, the valley of flowers, or the attracting shark evokes a deep sense of wonder. The ecological conflict and cooperation among members of population and among population of the community, or even the molecular traffic inside a cell, makes us deeply reflect on what indeed is life. This question has two implicit questions within it. The first is a technical one and seeks answer to what living is as opposed to the non-living, and the second is a philosophical one and seeks answer to what the purpose of life is. As scientists, we shall not attempt answering the second question. We will try to reflect on what is living. 1.1 What is living? When we try to define living, we conventionally look for distinctive characteristics exhibited by living organisms: growth, reproduction, ability to sense environment, and maintain a suitable response come out our mind immediately. As unique features of living organism, one can add a few more features like metabolism, ability to self-replicate, self-organize, interact, and importance to this. Let us try to understand each of these. All living organisms grow. Increase in mass, increase in number of individuals are twin characteristics of growth. A multicellular organism grow by cell division. In plants, this growth by cell division occurs continuously throughout their lifespan. In animals, this growth is seen up to a certain age. However, cell division occurs in certain tissue to replace lost cells. Unicellular organisms grow by cell division. One can easily observe this into vitro cultures by simply counting the numbers of cells. One can easily observe this in vitro culture by simply counting the number of cells under the microscope. In majority of the higher animals and plants, growth and reproduction are mutually exclusive events. One must remember that increase in body mass is considered as growth. Non-living objects also grow. If we take increase in body mass as a criterion for growth, mountains, boulders, and sand molds grow. However, these kinds of growth exhibited by non-living object is by accumulation of materials on the surface. The living organism growth is from inside. Growth therefore cannot be taken as a defining property of living organism. Conditions under which it can be observed in all living organisms have to be explained, and then we understand that it is the characteristic of living system. A dead organism does not grow. Reproduction likewise is a characteristic of living organism. In multicellular organism, reproduction refers to the production of progeny possessing features more or less similar to those of parents. Invariably or implicitly, we refer to sexual reproduction. Organisms reproduce by asexual means also. Fungi multiply or spread easily due to a millions of asexual spores they produce. In lower organisms like yeast, hydra, we observe budding. In planaria, flatworms, we observe true regeneration, that is, a fragmented organism regenerates to lost part of the body and becomes a new organism. The fungi, the filamentous algae, the protonema of mosses all easily multiply by fragmentation. When it comes to unicellular organisms like bacteria, unicellular algae, or amoeba, reproduction is synonymous with growth, that is, increase in number of cells. We have already defined growth as equivalent to increase in cell number or mass. Hence, we notice that in a single cell organism, we are not very clear about the uses of these two terms, growth and reproduction. Further, there are many organisms which do not reproduce. Mules, uh, sterile worker bees, infertile couples, human couples, etc. Hence, reproduction also cannot be an inclusive defining characteristic of living organism. Of course, non-living object is capable of reproducing or replicating by itself. Another characteristic of life is metabolism. All living organisms are made of chemicals. These chemicals, small or big, belonging to various classes, size, function, etc., are constantly being made and changed into some other biomolecules. This conversion are chemical reaction or metabolic reaction. There are thousands of metabolic reactions occurring simultaneously inside all living organisms. They be they unicellular or multicellular. All plants, animals, fungi, microbes exhibit metabolism. The sum of total of all the chemical reactions occurring in our body is metabolism. No non-living object exhibited metabolism. Metabolic reaction can be demonstrated outside the body in cell-free system. An isolated metabolic reactions outside the body of an organism performed in a test tube is neither living or not living. Hence, while metabolism is a defining features of all living organisms without exception, isolated metabolic reactions in vitro are not living things but surely living reaction. Hence, cellular organization of the body is defining feature of the life form. Perhaps the most obvious or technical complicated features of all the living organism is this ability to sense their surrounding or environment and response to these environmental stimuli, which could be physically or chemically, physical, chemical, or biological. We sense our environment through our sense organ. Plants respond to external factors like light, water, temperature, other organisms, pollutants, etc. All organisms from the prokaryote to the most complete eukaryote can sense and respond to the environmental cues. Photoperiod affect reproduction in seasonal breeders. Both plants and animals, all organisms handle chemical entering their bodies. All organisms therefore are aware of their surroundings. Human being is the only organism who is aware of himself, that is, has consciousness. Consciousness therefore becomes the defining property of the living organism. When it comes to human beings, it is all the more difficult to define the living state. We observe patients lying in the coma in hospital, virtually supported by mechanics which replace head and lungs. The patient is otherwise brain dead. The patient has no self-consciousness. As such patients who never come back to the normal life, living or non-living. In higher classes, you will come to know that all living phenomena are due to the underlying interaction. Properties of tissue are not present in the constituent cell, but arise as a result of the interaction among the constituent cells. Similarly, properties of cellular organelles are not present in the molecular constituent of the organelles, but arise as a result of interaction among the molecular components comprising the organelle. The interaction results in the emerged property at the higher level of organization. This phenomenon is true in the hierarchy of the organizational complexity at all levels. Therefore, we can say that living organisms are self-replicating, evolving and self-regulating interactive system capable of responding to external stimuli. Biology is the story of life on Earth. Biology is the story of evolution of living organisms on Earth. All living organisms, present, past, future, are linked to one another by the sharing of the common genetic material, but to varying degrees.